is Joyce Dattner, and I'm the chair of independentvoice.org. I'm very glad to be standing again on the steps of the Capitol with Lieutenant Governor Abel Maldonado, and was very proud to have stood here with him the day after Prop 14 passed to claim our victory together. Independentvoice.org exists to organize independent voters into a force that can change politics. We're working to make government about what is best for the people, not political parties and special interests. Independent voters, called Decline to State in California, have been the fastest growing segment of the electorate for the past 10 years. There are now 3.4 million Californians registered with no political party affiliation. Much of that growth has occurred in communities of color, particularly the Latino and Asian communities, and among young people. Nationally, 40% of Americans now identify themselves as independents rather than as Democrats or Republicans. While the media, politicians, and pundits now acknowledge the power of the independent voting bloc to swing elections, many don't understand who we are. Independents believe that our government is broken because the partisan nature of our political process puts the interests of the parties above what is best for the people. Independents recognize that in order to create new solutions to the challenges facing our state and country, we need to expand our democracy, rein in the privileges of the parties, and give more power to the people. It was independent voters who carried Barack Obama to an upset victory in the Democratic Party primary and later elected him president. Independents were also key in passing the open primary, Proposition 14. Independentvoice.org was proud to be leading the coalition as a leading member sponsoring Prop 14. And we're currently part of the coalition sponsoring Prop 20, which would expand voter control of the redistricting process to include congressional seats. It should be noted that independentvoice.org rarely endorses candidates. The last one was Barack Obama for president in 2008. We've relied primarily on the initiative process to push our reform agenda. However, we're always looking for political partners who want to reach beyond the constraints of partisan politics and move California and our country forward. With that, I want to ask the director of independentvoice.org, Jason Olson, to share why we're endorsing Abel Maldonado for Lieutenant Governor.
Well, thank you, Joyce. I first met Lieutenant Governor Abel Maldonado on the stump, campaigning for passage of Prop 14. In fact, we were doing an editorial board interview for the San Francisco Chronicle together. Yeah, and right away I realized that this wasn't an ordinary politician. In fact, he wasn't a traditional politician at all. He was a popular leader who understood the concerns of independent voters have about the decayed state of partisan politics. Lieutenant Governor Maldonado and I have gotten to know each other, and at every juncture, every step of the way, I've been impressed by his willingness to stand up to the partisan interests, particularly when he's at risk to himself and his political career, to do what's best for California, for meaningful political reform, and for the 3.4 million independent voters in California. He understands that it takes a movement of ordinary people to make changes, and he has a willingness to be unorthodox. I guess we can say that twice about him. He understands, and this is unusual for an elected official, that bipartisanship is not the same as nonpartisanship, and that while you need to reach across the aisle to get things done in Sacramento, you also have to open up the process to new political coalitions like independents and young people. Abel Maldonado proved his independence when he took on both political parties, including his own, to place Proposition 14 on the ballot. He poured his heart and soul into its passage. And because of that courage, 3.4 million California independent voters will be able to fully participate in the political process beginning in 2012. And he's continued that push for reform by joining us in support of Proposition 20, which would expand voter control of redistricting to congressional seats. Now that's the kind of tough and nonpartisan leadership that independent voters are looking for. Abel Maldonado has a vision for where California needs to go. He's a champion of our issues, and he's a good friend of the independent movement, both here in California and nationally. At a political and a personal level, I couldn't be more delighted to announce the endorsement by independentvoice.org of Abel Maldonado for Lieutenant Governor. And here's my message to the 3.4 million California independents who decided not to join a political party. Declining to state is great, but don't decline to vote. We have an independent champion on the ballot in November running for Lieutenant Governor, Abel Maldonado. Let's give him our full support.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here. I want to thank you, Joyce, for your support, for your dedication, for your hard work, for all the independents in California. And Jason, to you too, thank you for all your support. And it was at a Chronicle endorsement where I got to meet Jason. And we actually had a nice back and forth there with the editorial board, and obviously we were successful because the support came through. Let me share with you why this endorsement of Independent Voice is important for me. Growing up in a small town of Santa Maria, I never let politics get in the way of what's good for California or for my city. When there was a pothole in my hometown, I never looked at it as a Republican or a Democrat pothole. It needed to be fixed, and it needed to be fixed for the people that we represent. I've made that a point since day one. And obviously, to have 3.4 million Californians who are taxpayers, who pay taxes just like everybody else, and in the primary process, they had to beg or ask for permission to vote in a partisan primary, which I thought was unacceptable. If you're a taxpayer, you're involved, and you should be able to participate. So I thought that obviously Proposition 14 was a giant step forward to allowing everybody to vote in the political process. Also, bringing people together is very, very important. And there's a lot of independents and inclined to states as I travel throughout the state who said, you know what, why do we have to pay and why do we have to ask to be in the process? And I said, no longer, it's on its way. Help is on its way. So here we are. We have a process now that will allow more independents and inclined to states to vote. And with Proposition 20 on the ballot, I'm also asking the people of California to join us, to allow more independents and inclined to states to participate. So as we move forward, I've always said a couple of things that guide me. One of them, my mother and father always taught me never to compromise on my principles, but they always said never be afraid to come up with a principle compromise that benefits the people of California. And that's why we're here today. So with Proposition 14 and with independent voice support, there are 3 qualities that members of this legislature are going to have. And if they don't have these qualities, they're not going to be here very long. They're going to be open-minded, they're going to be reasonable, and they're going to be pragmatic. And those 3 things are the things that are lacking in this building. Day 96 today with no budget. That's uncalled for. I know that if you don't do your job in the real world on day 96, you get fired. That's why people of California are very, very mad and very, very upset. So I want to thank Joyce, and I want to thank Jason, and I want to thank Independent Voice. And I think I should thank Jackie too, back in New York, who's worked very, very hard for Independent Voice and who is a leader in made this movement that's important. So thank you so much. Your support is welcome, and I look forward to getting those declining states and independents to get out to vote. So we'll open it up for a question or two that you might have. Any questions?
How about maybe you could just react to the poll numbers, where you're at, where you want to be?
Well, obviously, it's there are several polls that are out there. I think it's a dead heat. We've got 30 days left in the campaign, and the real poll will be taken on November the 2nd. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you so much.